With some businesses closing their doors in the region recently in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, I spoke with Rick Sullivan of the Economic Development Council of Western Massachusetts about the impact that COVID-19 is continuing to have on the local economy.
Well, certainly, I think it's probably fair to say that it's a slow but deliberate reopening. And I think as we've talked about before, some of the sectors and some of the businesses are doing better than others. Some of them have been, really drastically hit hard. And it's going to take a long time for some of those businesses, particularly some of the smaller Main Street type businesses, the boutique type, the restaurants, certainly anything really related to travel and tourism and, an enclosed venue related business. It's going to be very, very slow. And, as we have kind of previewed a little bit here, the governor has slowed down the phase 3 reopening, particularly around obviously phase 2 or step 2, I guess it's called. So, it's definitely going to be a slower opening than I think maybe anticipated even a couple of weeks ago, just given the numbers. And I think the governor has been very deliberate. I think he obviously has listened very closely to the medical professionals and what's going on, both here in Massachusetts, certainly, but, even around the region in the country.
And you talk a little bit about the governor being very deliberate. I think a lot of businesses are probably have some anxiety around the stalling and the differences in the second part of phase 3. We have, at least according to July, the highest unemployment rate at 17% in Massachusetts. There has to be a great deal of frustration among business owners as this all rolls out.
Well, certainly businesses that have, any kind of, indoor gathering or indoor entertainment. I mean, things like roller rinks and laser tags, but gatherings for, weddings or graduation celebrations, they're not able to do those, indoor. And now, again, with a bit of a rollback on phase 3, now even the outdoor gatherings have been rolled back from what was 100 people to 50. So, those industry, sectors are very hard hit, and they don't have a real timetable of when they're going to be able to, reopen. And, when you look at companies that are in, the phase 4, and Six Flags is probably a really good example, they're in phase 4. And that really means that there's got to be, an effective vaccine out there. So, again, their timeline is, at best guess, first quarter 2021, and that may even be optimistic. So I just think, again, the unknown and the inability to plan on how the reopening is going to happen, or even whatever tactics they can use to comply with the health and safety regulations. It's really trying times for a lot of different companies in a lot of different sectors.
And when you talk about the restaurants and entertainment sector, which has been the hardest hit, obviously, some of these companies are not going to come back. Serendipity in Springfield, which was a nice clothing boutique, also had a nail salon, that's closed. The movie theater at the Eastfield Mall, which had already been having a lot of stores close over there, that's gone. There's other restaurants. The Restaurant Association, I believe, was predicting as many as a fourth of the restaurants in Massachusetts could close. That's really hard news to take.
Well, it is really hard news to take. And I mean, kind of overlay on that, everybody needs to remember we're in New England here. So, some of the restaurants have done a really nice job segueing to takeout and outdoor dining, but, the outdoor dining options, are going to go away, depending on the weather, late fall, maybe even early fall, depending on what the weather's like. So, New England itself is really not set up for, year-round outdoor dining. So, some of the strategies that companies have deployed to stay in business, some of those may be taken off the table just because of the weather and where we live.
Can you talk a little bit about manufacturing and how they have fared in all of this?
Sure. So again, I think it's somewhat dependent on exactly what people are, manufacturing. But in general, the manufacturing sector has done well. One of their biggest concerns right now, or obstacles, if you will, to growth and continued production is being able to find employees. So we're working, the EDC is working with a number of our members, but non-members as well, trying to get a workforce development strategy that can bring people, to work right now. That is an issue, and it's all related to school openings. Some parents aren't being able to go back to work because they got to be doing childcare, daycare. Transportation is an issue in some cases because the public transportation isn't as robust as perhaps it was before. And in Western Mass, it's certainly not as robust as it is in the Boston area to begin with. So there's just a whole lot of different obstacles that might not have been there before for people to be able to go back to work. And some of them is comfort level and feeling safe and being able to go back onto a production floor. So there's a whole host of reasons as to why there's a increased workforce issue right now. But for a lot of our manufacturers, that is the biggest issue that they're facing. Some of the manufacturers locally, pivoted a bit and have gotten into some PPE production. The ability to be able to produce that locally long term is really going to be dependent on our local sourcing and getting some long-term contracts. It's really not profitable for a company to pivot and just start making, gowns, for instance, if there's not going to be a longer-term contract and a longer-term relationship to supply those items. So, we are looking at some of the purchasing strategies, not just of our companies out here, but really statewide and in the region, to hopefully be able to bring some longer-term, more permanent contracts, if you will, to some of our manufacturers to make that pivot.
And what's available for companies? I know the latest stimulus bill is stalled in Congress, but are there still programs out there to help keep employees on and keep these businesses afloat?
Well, the PPP program, has ended unless it's extended in whatever negotiations there are. So that actually closed last Friday, which I think has been a helpful program to many. And I think they've even come out just this week with the guidance on the repayment or the forgiveness portion of the PPP, which hopefully is going to be simplified for companies that took less than $150,000 to a hopefully simple form, one-page form that they can submit through their lending institution. But there are certainly other programs out there. I think companies need to be careful and understand the ramifications that, of what a low interest loan brings to the table. It is still a loan, and depending on the product, there may not be a forgiveness component to it like there was with the PPP. I think it's accurate to say that certainly minority and women-owned businesses have been disproportionately hit hard, and there's a real focus with Common Capital trying to bring capital investment into minority and women-owned businesses there. So that's certainly a resource. The Boston Federal Reserve does have a small business Main Street program that again is a loan product. It's really I don't believe it's probably really helpful to most small Main Street businesses because there are some initial minimum qualifications in terms of how much you need to borrow, and that's probably more than any small business should be taking on. And the EDC, my chair, Kevin Van, we started a COVID response team. So small businesses, whether they are EDC members or not, we have a resource available where we can bring professionals from our member companies to the table to have discussions and bring financial and business advice to companies that may need it right now, and also connect them into other programs that are available out there, either for grants in some cases or small business loans.
So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy was actually doing quite well, and I'm sure there are a lot of business owners who have either closed down completely or who are struggling to hang in there, are just imagining, listen, if this was over, we could get back in business and get back online. What is the long-term prognosis for this area?
Well, I am an optimist, and I really think long-term, Western Massachusetts can be very and is well positioned to actually, take advantage of what the future may bring. So we are already having a number of conversations with companies, not just from Massachusetts and not just in this area, but that are looking at their supply chains and looking and saying, my supply chain being in Asia or overseas is not as reliable as I need it to be. So looking at options to be able to have some manufacturing or other companies into their supply chain. We actually have an event on the 19th of August, which we are putting together with the Mass Tech Collaborative. I'm doing just that. We're going to have a number of companies headlined by iRobot, sponsored by Congressman Neal and MTC, where they'll come in and say these are the places in our supply chain, or these are our business needs that we would look to Western Massachusetts, in this particular case, manufacturers, or operations like call centers or back office operations. We are obviously much less dense here in Western Mass than the Boston area. Our cost of doing business is much less. And you don't necessarily have to have those operations in Boston or overseas. You can look at a Western Massachusetts option. Even working from home, you've already seen a number of companies around here, Liberty Mutual, Mass Mutual, Vistaprint in the eastern part of the state. A number of other companies are already telling their employees, you're going to be working from home through the end of the year. Some of those companies are even saying, until further notice, and it may be, a permanent situation where people are allowed to work from home. So as long as we in Western Mass have appropriate, Wi-Fi, broadband, internet connections here, and people can quickly work from home and efficiently work from home, then you can choose the quality of life you want to experience when you are home. And Western Massachusetts scores very high when you ask people, what are you looking for in your quality of life? More open space, recreational opportunities, cost of living. We've got that package here in Western Mass. So long term, I am very optimistic on how the Western Mass economy can come back from this. But that is not going to happen tomorrow. There isn't going to be this V-shaped recovery. I think it's pretty clear that it is going to be a longer, more deliberate, comeback than perhaps people were necessarily talking about, 6 months ago.